What if I told you that the reason you're exhausted isn't because of what's happening around you, but because of what you let happen inside you? The people, the opinions, the noise, none of that truly drains you. What drains you is your reaction to them. Today, I'm going to show you how to train yourself to be unbothered. Not indifferent, but invincible. Most people live their lives as emotional hostages, chained to every word, every look, every situation that doesn't go as planned. They wake up already bracing for who might offend them, who might disappoint them, what might go wrong, and because they never train themselves to separate what happens around them from what happens within them, they become victims of every external disturbance. Emotional mastery begins exactly where reaction ends. The moment you stop giving power to your triggers, you begin reclaiming ownership of your inner world. When something unexpected happens, when someone says something that hits a nerve, the untrained mind reacts instantly. It fires off defensiveness, anger, or insecurity. But the trained mind pauses. It observes. It asks, is this worth my energy? That pause, that single powerful second, is the difference between chaos and control, between being ruled by emotion and being guided by wisdom. Emotional strength is not about suppressing what you feel. It's about giving your feelings direction. When you can sit in discomfort without letting it dictate your behavior, you've stepped into a new dimension of personal power. Think about it. Most people think power is about domination, about controlling others or their environment. But real power is internal. It's the ability to stand in the middle of noise and remain unmoved, to experience chaos and still choose calm. The truth is, life will never stop throwing situations at you that test your balance. The question is, will you continue letting them pull you in every direction? When you master your emotional responses, you become the calm in the storm. You stop being a slave to every comment, every piece of gossip, every setback. You stop needing the world to be peaceful before you can feel peace. Because peace isn't found in the absence of triggers. It's found in the mastery of reaction. The person who can't control their emotions is controlled by whoever knows how to provoke them. And that's a dangerous way to live. Constantly reacting, constantly drained, constantly shifting between anger, sadness, and anxiety because you've never learned to manage the inner flow. Training yourself to be unbothered begins with awareness. Awareness of your patterns, your triggers, and the stories you tell yourself when things don't go as planned. For example, when someone criticizes you, the emotional mind instantly translates that as rejection. But the mastered mind sees it as information. It separates opinion from identity. It doesn't internalize, it evaluates. When you train this way, you start realizing that most of the chaos that disturbs you doesn't come from events themselves, but from your interpretation of them. You start catching yourself before the spiral begins. That's emotional intelligence in motion, when you can pause long enough to recognize that what you feel isn't always the truth. Sometimes it's just a reaction built from years of unexamined patterns, and the moment you begin questioning those patterns, you loosen their grip. You start choosing responses that align with who you want to be, not how you momentarily feel. But mastery isn't built overnight. It's repetition. Every time you choose not to react impulsively, you're building emotional muscle. Every time you take a breath instead of a bite, every time you pause instead of pounce, every time you reflect instead of retaliate, you're rewiring your nervous system for calm. It's a process of conditioning, just like physical training. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be strong forever. You show up consistently. The same goes for emotional strength. The more you practice awareness and controlled response, the more natural it becomes. You begin to feel an inner stillness that doesn't depend on anyone's behavior or approval. You begin to realize that peace is not passive, it's power restrained, energy redirected. That is what being unbothered really means. It's not detachment from life, it's engagement from a place of control. It's looking at every situation and knowing that you have the power to choose your internal experience regardless of the external noise, because the truth is the world doesn't need to calm down. You do. And when you do, you'll find that nothing and no one can disturb a mind that's trained to stay steady in the middle of the storm. Every single morning, before you even open your eyes, two worlds await you, the one that exists outside of you and the one that lives within. The external world is noisy, unpredictable, full of demands, traffic, opinions, deadlines, and distractions. It's the world you can't fully control, but the internal world, that's your domain. That's where your state of mind, your focus, your peace, and your power reside. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manipulate the outer world, hoping that if everything out there becomes calm, they'll finally feel calm inside. But the truth is the opposite. The outer world reflects the state of your inner one. If you wake up anxious, no amount of external quiet will give you peace. If your mind is chaotic, even the smallest disturbance feels like a threat. The secret to becoming unbothered lies in mastering that internal world, in building a state of mind so strong that no storm outside can shake it. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose the state from which you experience it. The difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who rise through it isn't luck or circumstance. It's the state they choose to live in. When you're in a reactive state, your nervous system is hijacked. You make impulsive decisions, you misinterpret words, and you amplify problems that could have been solved with patience. But when you're in a powerful state, calm, centered, focused, you interpret challenges differently. You stop seeing problems as personal attacks and start seeing them as puzzles to be solved. That's emotional leadership. It's the awareness that your internal state is the foundation for everything you touch, build, and influence. When your state collapses, your performance collapses. When your state strengthens, your clarity, energy, and resilience expand. Everything starts with state. So if you want to change your life, stop trying to fix everything outside. Start mastering what's inside. The most powerful question you can ask yourself when the world feels chaotic is, what state am I in right now? Because your state drives your story. When you live in frustration, you create stories of limitation. You convince yourself that the world is against you, that people don't understand you, that nothing ever works out. And those stories shape your reality. But if you shift your state, if you take a breath, move your body, redirect your focus, you shift the story instantly. Suddenly the same situation looks different. What felt like rejection becomes redirection. What felt like failure becomes feedback. This is not delusion. It's mastery of perception. You can't control the waves, but you can control the surfboard. And that control starts with your state. Your emotions follow your focus, and your focus determines your reality. Train yourself to focus on what you can control, your energy, your response, your presence, and you'll notice how the noise of the world starts to lose its grip on you. Think about how many times people surrender their state to circumstances they can't control. Someone cuts them off in traffic. They give away peace. A coworker's bad mood ruins their day. They give away joy. A minor inconvenience makes them spiral. They give away focus. They treat their state like it's up for auction, selling it to whoever bids the loudest. But when you decide that your state is non-negotiable, you stop giving your peace away so cheaply. You start protecting it like it's sacred. And it is. Because everything you want, your clarity, confidence, creativity, and strength flows from a calm, focused state of mind. When you learn to master that inner world, you become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You stop reflecting the energy around you and you start setting it. People feel your calm and begin to regulate themselves to your frequency. You lead not by control, but by presence. That's what true emotional power looks like. Not dominance, not arrogance, but stability. Because the person who can stay grounded when everyone else is losing their mind is the person who leads the room. Your inner world is the only world you ever truly live in, and the quality of that world determines the quality of your life. You can build it like a fortress or leave it open to invasion. Every thought, every focus, every emotional choice is either building walls of strength or doors of vulnerability. So train yourself to wake up every day and choose your state before the world chooses it for you. Choose calm before chaos, gratitude before fear, power before pressure. The world outside will never stop testing you, but the more you build stability within, the less those tests will matter, because once your inner world is anchored, no storm outside can make you sink. People often confuse detachment with indifference, as if being unbothered means you stop caring, stop feeling, or stop engaging with life. But that's not what true detachment is. Detachment is power, not passivity. It's the ability to care deeply about something without losing your peace over it. It's the art of showing up fully, giving your best, and still being able to walk away without your sense of worth being destroyed by the outcome. The world has conditioned us to attach our identity to everything, to our job, our relationships, our success, our image, even our pain. And because of that, when something changes or falls apart, we fall apart apart with it. But when you train yourself in detachment, you realize that nothing external should have the authority to define your internal state. You stop chasing control over things that were never yours to control. You stop tying your happiness to how people treat you, how plans unfold, or how life looks on the surface. You start realizing that freedom isn't found in owning everything. It's found in not being owned by anything. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. It's choosing where to invest your energy and where to pull it back. It's recognizing that not every battle deserves your attention, not every opinion deserves your response, and not every emotional wave deserves to pull you under. When you learn detachment, you gain clarity. You start seeing things as they are, not as your emotions exaggerate them to be. You stop reacting from insecurity and start responding from intention. You stop needing to prove your point, defend your worth, or explain your piece. Detachment gives you the ability to stand tall when people misunderstand you because you no longer depend on their approval to feel grounded. You no longer seek validation from a world that thrives on comparison and chaos. You become the calm observer instead of the frantic participant. That's when your energy becomes magnetic, your focus becomes sharper, and your life begins to move with greater precision. In a world addicted to noise, opinions, and instant reactions, detachment becomes a superpower. It's the strength to say, I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. It's understanding that silence doesn't mean weakness, it means control. Because when you stop reacting to every insult, every distraction, every burst of negativity, you conserve energy for what truly matters. You begin to see how much power you are giving away every time you let someone's mood dictate yours. You realize how many hours, days, even years you've wasted trying to convince people to see your value, trying to fix things beyond your reach, trying to change people who don't want to change. Detachment teaches you that peace isn't found in controlling outcomes. It's found in releasing expectations. It's about doing your part with full presence and then letting go of the need to control what happens next. When you stop gripping so tightly, life starts to flow again. Opportunities open up because you're no longer blocking them with fear and tension. To master detachment, you must learn to trust yourself more than you trust your need for control. That means believing that no matter what happens, you will handle it. You will adapt, grow, and rise. When you build that inner trust, you don't panic when people leave, when plans change, or when things fall apart. You simply shift. You flow with life instead of fighting against it. And in that flow, you find strength. Detachment allows you to stand in the middle of uncertainty and still feel anchored because your stability no longer depends on circumstances. It depends on your self-mastery. You start moving through life with grace instead of grasping, with confidence instead of desperation. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from knowing you don't need to. The truth is, when you master detachment, you stop being emotionally manipulated by everything outside of you. The opinions, the criticism, the disappointments, they lose their sting. You develop the ability to observe chaos without becoming it. You start speaking less, reacting slower, and thinking clearer. You start protecting your energy not by isolating yourself, but by being selective with what and who gets access to you. Detachment doesn't isolate you from love. It purifies it. It allows you to give love freely, without fear, because you're no longer trying to control its return. It allows you to pursue your purpose without anxiety, because you're no longer obsessed with the outcome. You stop needing the world to validate you because your peace becomes your validation. That's the paradox of detachment. The moment you stop chasing control, you gain it. The moment you release outcomes, better ones start unfolding. It's not that life suddenly becomes easier, it's that you become unshakable. When something triggers you, when someone disrespects you, disappoints you, or throws you off balance, the instinctive response is to react. You raise your voice, withdraw, attack, or overthink. You give your power away in the very first second. But emotional mastery demands that you resist that impulse, because the fastest way to lose your power is to react before you reflect. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who never face conflict. They're the ones who know how to reframe it. Reframing means shifting the way you interpret what happens to you. It's the ability to take the same event that once would have broken you and see it as something building you. The same pain that once made you bitter now makes you wise. The same rejection that once made you feel small now fuels your direction. The difference isn't in what happens. The difference is in how you see it. Every challenge you face carries a hidden lesson, but most people are too busy reacting to recognize it. The moment you learn to pause and ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You transform from a victim into a creator. That's when your emotions stop ruling you and you start ruling your emotions. Reframing is the discipline of taking control of your perspective. You can't control what people do or say, but you can control what it means to you. And meaning is everything. Two people can go through the exact same experience. One grows, one breaks. The difference lies in the story they tell themselves about it. When something painful happens, your mind immediately assigns meaning. I failed. They don't care. I'm not enough. Those meanings trigger your emotions, and those emotions create your reality. But if you stop in that moment and ask yourself, what else could this mean? You create space for growth instead of collapse. Maybe that failure isn't a dead end. Maybe it's redirection. Maybe that betrayal isn't punishment. Maybe it's protection. Reframing doesn't deny reality. It redefines it. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing a perspective that empowers you instead of one that paralyzes you. Because if your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings shape your behavior, then mastering your perspective means mastering your life. The people who rise above pain are not those with easier lives. They are those who interpret life differently. They've learned that pressure doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. Every time you face something hard, you're given the opportunity to see who you are beneath the surface. You can choose to focus on the pain or on the strength it's building. You can focus on what you lost or on what it's teaching you to value. Reframing isn't denial. It's direction. It's saying, this situation may not be what I wanted, but I'm going to use it to become stronger, wiser, more focused. Because when you learn to reframe, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. Every experience becomes data. Every obstacle becomes training. And soon, what used to shake you becomes your foundation. What used to scare you becomes your teacher. What used to trigger you becomes your test. And every time you pass, your inner stability deepens. Reframing also requires self-awareness. You have to know your patterns, how you typically react, what stories your mind tends to create when you're under pressure. When you become aware of those default reactions, you can interrupt them. You can say, wait, I've been here before, I know how this feels, and I know I have a choice. That's where emotional evolution happens, in that brief moment between stimulus and response. Every time you choose to pause, breathe, and see the situation differently, you are training your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. Over time, you start noticing that things which once consumed you no longer do. You stop spiraling after minor setbacks. You stop being triggered by every negative comment. You stop reacting to problems like they're personal attacks. You develop emotional armor, not because you've become cold, but because you've become conscious. That's the essence of reframing. It doesn't make life easier. It makes you more capable. And when you learn to reframe consistently, you begin to live from a higher state of awareness. You stop letting external circumstances dictate your inner experience. You start understanding that pain and peace can coexist, that challenges don't mean you're failing, they mean you're growing. You realize that the same storm that frightens others can strengthen you if you choose to see it as training. Every reaction becomes a choice. Every obstacle becomes an invitation. Every setback becomes a setup for something greater. When you live this way, you no longer need perfect conditions to feel powerful. You create power from within, no matter what's happening around you. Because reframing is not just a mindset, it's a lifestyle of emotional freedom. It's the daily decision to look at life and say, this may not be easy, but it's going to make me extraordinary. Energy is the invisible currency of your life, and yet most people spend it recklessly. They hand it out to arguments, distractions, negative people, and situations that don't deserve a single ounce of their attention. They wake up drained before the day even begins because their mental and emotional energy has been scattered everywhere but where it matters. Protecting your energy doesn't mean building walls. It means creating boundaries that guard your peace. You wouldn't leave your wallet open for anyone to take from, so why do you let anyone reach into your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and withdraw freely? Every time you engage with drama, over-explain yourself, or internalize someone else's negativity, you're making an emotional withdrawal. And just like a bank account, if you keep withdrawing without depositing, you'll go bankrupt, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The most successful, centered, and peaceful people in the world are not those who have the least stress, but those who are intentional about where they spend their energy. They've learned that saying yes to everything is a silent way of saying no to themselves. You have to start treating your energy as sacred because it fuels everything you do, your focus, your creativity, your resilience, your relationships, your purpose. When your energy is scattered, nothing flows. You start making sloppy decisions, your confidence drops, your clarity fades, and life begins to feel heavy. That's not because life is hard, it's because you've allowed too many leaks in your energy field. Protecting your energy starts with awareness. Become conscious of what drains you. Notice how you feel after spending time with certain people or doing certain activities. Do they energize you or exhaust you? Do they expand your mindset or shrink it? The moment you identify what depletes you, you gain the power to stop feeding it. Some people carry storms within them, and if you're not careful, they'll hand you their thunder and call it friendship. You cannot fix people who are committed to staying broken, and you cannot move forward if you keep letting their chaos anchor you down. Protecting your energy means having the courage to step back without guilt, and the wisdom to know when peace is more important than pleasing others. Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They don't isolate you, they refine access to you. Every time you set a boundary, you are declaring, "My peace matters." You are choosing maturity over impulse, clarity over confusion, and purpose over people-pleasing. When you say no to what drains you, you're actually saying yes to what elevates you. And yes, people may not like it. They may call you distant, cold, or selfish. But remember, those who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always be offended when you create them. Don't confuse their discomfort with your wrongdoing. You're not responsible for managing how people respond to your self-respect. You're responsible for managing your energy, your focus, and your alignment. Protecting your energy also means limiting your exposure to constant negativity, the endless scrolling, gossip, drama, or even the voice in your own head that criticizes more than it encourages. Detox your mental space as often as you do your physical one, because what you consume emotionally is shaping your state far more than you realize. When you begin to protect your energy, you'll notice that your presence becomes stronger. You start walking into rooms with a calm confidence, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're no longer leaking power through unnecessary engagement. You stop explaining your decisions to people who wouldn't understand them even if you did. You stop chasing validation because your peace becomes your proof. Protecting your energy allows you to move through the world with a lighter heart and sharper focus. You stop needing to fight every battle or respond to every comment. You start understanding that silence is not weakness, it's strategy. You begin to master the art of choosing your battles, and most of the time you'll find that the best response is no response at all, because when your energy is stable, your mind becomes clear, and clarity always outperforms chaos. The more you value your energy, the more selective you become with your time and attention. You'll start investing in what nourishes you, people who inspire you, work that fulfills you, habits that strengthen you. You'll realize that energy protection is not about isolation, it's about elevation. You're simply aligning yourself with what feeds your growth instead of what drains it. Protecting your energy is an act of love toward yourself and an act of leadership for your life. It's declaring that your peace is not negotiable, that your focus is precious, and that your spirit is too valuable to be tangled in meaningless noise. Because when your energy is protected, your vision becomes unstoppable. You move with purpose, speak with clarity, and live with presence. You stop reacting to everything that moves and start responding only to what matters. And that's when you realize that protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's the foundation of being unbothered in a world that constantly tries to pull you out of alignment.